Hello everyone, Alien Volt here, and I'm playing Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. Alright, Rising Storm 2 Vietnam is made by Tapwire Interactive and co-developed by Antimatter Games, which apparently is a small part of the original Tapwire team. And they are known for the Red Orchestra series as well as the Killing Floor series. So if you've played either of those games, you'll know that their quality is pretty good. Although they are a smaller development team and, well, publisher as well, they do a good job. And they're known for their attention to detail as far as weapons handling and realism. The original Red Orchestra was released in 2006. It's been that long. Red Orchestra 2 was a sequel to that, Heroes of Stalingrad, and that was released in 2011. Their third game in the series was Rising Storm, and that was released in 2013. And now Rising Storm 2, being their fourth game in the series and sequel to Rising Storm, is Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, and so this is where we're at. Now, I really like the Vietnam conflict, mainly because it's more recent. Now, in my opinion, there haven't really been a lot of good Vietnam games. Battlefield did two. They did one as a full release. It was their second game following Battlefield 1942, and that was Battlefield Vietnam. And that game's no longer available because the servers went down after GameSpy shut down. And then the second one was Battlefield Bad Company 2 Vietnam, which was an actual mod to the game, but it gave you like an entire new multiplayer experience, which was really well done on their Frostbite engine. And it was actually the first game to really come out for PC that had the Frostbite engine in it, and that really kind of changed their whole franchise around. The only other Vietnam game that I really enjoyed was Men of Valor, and that came out in 2004. And so here we are now in 2017, 7 years since our last decent Vietnam game. So Rising Storm Vietnam, hopefully they can pull it off, right? So far it looks very promising. However, this game's not going to be for everybody. It is definitely a hardcore realistic shooter. So what you have is you have team kills. You can injure your teammates and kill them. You can bleed out if you take damage. You know, there is no aiming assistance with a dot or a crosshair in the center of your screen for hip fire. There's nothing. The only thing you have are true sights, the sight aperture of the weapon, or some type of scope mechanism. That's it. Expect detailed weapon ballistics and weapon handling. There's going to be a lot of recoil, and you're going to have bullet drop. But what really sets this game apart isn't just a hardcore mode that it is all the time. It's a hardcore gameplay. It's the way the squads have to work together to accomplish goals. It's the way your team as a whole must function. Just like a real platoon would, your team or company in game have to function as a solid unit. They have to work together. There are so many roles that you can select. Not everyone can load out a sniper set. There are a limit to numbers, with the exception of the riflemen, your basic infantrymen. All the other positions on the team are limited, so only a certain number of people can select them. And that's by design. There's a reason for that, because this game is set up to function as a team effort, and that's not going to appeal to everyone. There are a lot of people that want to come into games and they want to play it however they want, and this is not one of those games. Not unless how you want to play is working as a cohesive team. In this game, everyone has a purpose. Your squad leader have to stay back because they basically function as a spawning tool, as a spawning unit for their team on the American side. If you're on the Vietnam side, the Vietnamese have a tunnel system that they can actually put down, and then you spawn out of the tunnel. As a squad leader, you should be an experienced player on the game. You should know all the objectives, know the safest routes to them, and then your job is basically to stay back and direct your squad to those objectives. You function as that spawn point, so if your squad members die, they have a way to spawn back on you rather than a quarter of a mile away and having to move to that point, because then you lose too much ground. You also have to communicate with the team leader so you can mark areas that need support, that need to be bombed, that need napalm brought in. This game is all about teamwork, and that's what makes it great when it works well. Now, when it doesn't work well, when you have squad members that aren't working as a team, you have squad leaders that don't know what they're doing, you have people jumping into transport vehicles that are just screwing around or using them for themselves rather than the team, it becomes a very bad experience. Thankfully, just like the previous games, you do have a vote kick system to get rid of those types of people. So usually if you have someone on the server that's trolling or causing problems and not doing what they're supposed to do, they'll usually be kicked pretty quickly. So the experience overall is usually enjoyable in this game. At least as long as you're playing right, and that's how you expect to play. If you come into this thinking that it's Battlefield or Call of Duty, you're going to have a bad time, because this game is not meant to be played like either of those. Now, Call of Duty you can play as a team and have a good time and do very well. Battlefield makes it even easier with squads, similar to this. But none of those games require you to work as a team to win. People can go off and do their own thing, and the game will still be good or bad depending upon people's ability to play their positions, their roles, their support position, their medic position, whether or not they're doing the basic functions. You don't really have to communicate well. You just have to do your job. In this game, you have to communicate. You can't just leave things up for chance. You have to work as a team. And that's what makes this game special. Outside of your more realistic sim type shooters like Arma and Squad, this game sets itself apart from your mainline shooters like Battlefield and Call of Duty. It's just very different and very team oriented without the simulation. Alright, for the new things in this game, one of the biggest is the vehicles, and anyone who's watched the trailers knows that we get choppers, but only on the American side. You get the Huey Transport, you get the Loach Recon, and you get the Apache Attack Helicopter. And the choppers are a great addition. Of course, they've balanced out the game so that way that they don't become overpowered, but when you're playing on the US side, they definitely make a nice game strategy to come around to the back of a point and drop off personnel so they can sneak back in undetected. Now, the downside is the helicopters are very loud, so it is hard to get someone to a point without being detected. They're going to know that you flew back to a general area, but then they have to come back and hunt you down. Or at least respond to one of the bases in the back area that you flew to and try to defend it. And again, that's where your teamwork is going to come into play, because if everyone just assumes someone's going to respond and defend an area without any type of communication, it's not going to happen, and you're going to lose your points. And once you start losing points and you break the chain, the link between bases you have, you stop gaining points. So it's imperative that everyone listens and communicates and works together as a team. Now, another new feature with this is you can actually have some customization to your characters, which is going to be nice. You'll get to choose from hats, uniforms, tattoos even, glasses, and a lot of weapon attachments. So the weapons are going to be functional, where you're going to have different types of attachments and upgrades that you can do for them, but they're going to remain balanced and true to what they were. So don't expect thermal imaging on an M16A2 one service rifle, because you're not going to get it. Now, graphically, this game doesn't look bad, but it also doesn't look next generation AAA either, and there's a reason for that. It's designed and developed on the Unreal 3 engine. Yes, they've made some modifications to the engine, and it does look better than the last Rising Storm title, but at the same time, it doesn't look as good as what it probably would have had it been developed on the Unreal 4 engine. However, due to a lot of the work being done on the Unreal 3 engine when this project started, as well as a lot of the in-house ballistics programming and stuff that they did, I guess it was just easier to keep it on the Unreal 3. Plus, Unreal 4 does have some optimization issues, especially with AMD cards, so maybe that was a factor as well. I don't know. Either way, you're not going to find the fidelity in this game that you're going to find in a title like Battlefield 1 that uses a more current engine. Another issue with the development may or may not be related to the use of the Unreal 3 engine is the lack of support for monitor resolutions outside of the standard 16:9 resolution scheme. Now, for those of us using an ultra-wide monitor, you're going to be stuck stretching your monitor resolution, but at the same time, at least you're not going to have the black bars at the side of the screen. But you will have a distorted image quality as well as a shorter field of view than what you could have with a supported resolution. Now, as far as the beta, it's not the smoothest beta I've played. There's definitely some lag issues. There's some graphical glitches, not only with lighting, but also with clipping. For instance, I went into a tunnel and I tried to turn around because it had a dead end, and when I did, I clipped out of the tunnel and underneath the map, and I couldn't get out. Now, the same thing occurs sometimes where I've seen underneath the map in prone, as well as seen someone clipping through a building. Now, I've also seen rocks that I can actually see into, so it's missing like part of the rock, but yet you can't walk through it because there's an invisible barrier, as well as some buildings that were floating off the ground. That was pretty magical indeed. Definitely needs to be fixed. Now, of course, this is all a work in progress and it's still early beta, but they definitely have a lot of work ahead of them still before this title is actually ready for release. Alright, well, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.